brought me to life. And I realized that I had a special connection with fruit and veg. But it's actually exciting, it's fun, it's tasty, it's delicious, it enriches your life, but also you just have this wonderful experience and you can share it with family and then the memory stays with you forever.
You have a very strong message.
Learning the history of fruit and veg is really important for us so that we can eat healthier, so we can define what we like, because it's a call to action. People see you know, they see your culture and they're more accepting and they feel like welcome.
I'm Elina Reddy and welcome to Foreign Influence. Qualities in the business person. Yes, it's within us. If it was ashamed of, do something.
Like music where I'll tell a story. Give it
What's happening? Your life can be better.
Happiness is about having a good time, it's about joy.
Yeah, will go along a faith, so.
And the challenge is and welcome to Foreign Influence. We are reporting to you from the Prairan Market and we're going to speak to Thanh Truong, who is known as a fruit nerd. He will tell us everything about fruit, his favorite fruit, the healthiest fruit, the craziest fruit. I cannot wait for you to meet him.
Market and it's winter right now. We've got a lot of citrus. Are these tangelos?
Correct. Yeah.
Oh!
Yes. Can you see it?
Wow, and the skin.
Thanh, tell me a little bit about your cultural background.
Sure. So my parents were born in Vietnam during the war, and my great-grandparents are from China. But I was born here in Australia and I literally grew up in a fruit store like in here.
So you're an Aussie!
I'm
Yay!
an Aussie and I used to run around, you know, fruit stores like this, causing a lot of trouble when I was a kid. I grew up in a fruit store, I grew up in Melbourne, and it's funny, I didn't like it so much when I was a kid because my parents worked so hard I never saw them, so I didn't like the trade.
Well, that's the thing about migrants, working extremely hard, wanting to establish themselves.
I kind of resented fruit and veg when I was young because of that. But then when I grew up older, I realized that when I started working, and I worked for Coles in the supermarkets, and when I touched fruit, it brought me to life. And I realized that I had a special connection with fruit and veg. Because when I see a citrus like this, I know that it's been waxed, I know that it's been picked only, probably only a month ago, and it's alive to me. I can see the greenness of the stem. It's really talking to me. And so when I was about 21 or 22, I realized that I loved fruit and veg. Even though, it was a big part of my life when I was young and I didn't want to get into the industry, I realized that it was special to me, and that was really the start of my journey into becoming the fruit nerd.
Tell us, what are we holding? Because probably some people would have no idea.
That's right. Well, most people will see a lot of citrus. There's a lot of citrus here, many different varieties from oranges, lemons, mandarins. This one is called a tangelo. And it's usually used for juicing because it's got a really strong zesty taste. So it's like a perfume. So when we can describe fruits really beautifully, then we can not only just promote it well, but we can be excited about it. So the great thing about a tangelo is its perfume. Now, how you can really smell it is you get your nail and you kind of scratch the skin. And when you scratch the skin, it releases all of the oils. And if you just smell the skin, it'll actually start to give you the flavor, because all of the citrus, from lemons to oranges, they all have different notes, even amongst lemons, because there's different types of lemons. We've got a tangelo here. If you can give it a try, it's got a really nice zesty taste. It doesn't have the texture of like an orange, where the pulp inside is more pronounced and it's more drier. This is more of a juicy, watery texture. What is your favorite fruit memory?
I love berries. I just love berries so much. And to me, I have this association of these cartoons that I watched in Ukraine of this bear who is walking around in the forest and he eats all the raspberries. Yeah, but I also love mushrooms, and it reminds me when I was little and with my parents I would go mushroom picking in the autumn and in the pine forest, and I smell still in my memory, it's so fresh, that smell of pine and the excitement of finding
Some orange little big cap underneath all the pine needles.
Yeah, that's right.
A great debate is always, what is a fruit and what is a vegetable? So tomatoes are a great example of how the description in the English language of a fruit has changed over time. See, a long time ago, tomatoes used to be fruits, but most of us would probably describe it as a vegetable, I would say. What would you say?
I would say,
Is it-
I know technically it's a fruit, but yes, I would describe it as a vegetable because I would use it in salads, and in salads you use vegetables.
Yeah. And it's mainly a savory dish.
That's right, not a dessert. Yeah.
So the description, 100 or 200 years ago was the botanical description. So how botanists or gardeners would describe fruit and veg. And this has seeds in it. And anything with a seed is a fruit. But over time, we started to purchase fruit and veg in supermarkets. And so the supermarkets do not put fruits and vegetables in the same bracket. They define produce in general as fruits that you snack on, like apples or bananas, and savory things that you'd cook with, like in the kitchen, like a tomato. So that's why the more culinary definition of a tomato would be a vegetable. So the supermarkets have actually determined in our minds how we see fruits and vegetables. Now, nowadays we get these really small Roma tomatoes or the cherry tomatoes,
Yes.
and they're more for snacking, and they're easy. You don't need to wash them, you don't need to cut them. And so tomatoes are a classic case of they were a fruit, they became a vegetable, and now they're a bit of both. So I think learning the history of fruit and veg is really important for us as fruiters in our industry, but also consumers, Australians, and all of us, so that we can eat healthier, so we can define what we like. And so that's been a big part of my life, trying to figure it out in my own head before I teach other people.
So you have a very strong message, obviously.
Yeah.
How do you get it out there? What's your secret?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a secret as such, but let's walk over to the sweet potatoes and I'll explain that answer. These are sweet potatoes. I love them. My parents love them. These are purple inside, and if you they're actually purple inside, and the more purple it is, the sweeter it is. So you asked me what my secret is. Now, it's not really a secret as such, but I have been making videos for nearly 8 years now, and nobody watched them. I posted them on YouTube, I made full-length videos, and what I...
They watch them now
No, they
because
do
you
watch
have
them
like
now.
40 million views.
Well, I think a part of the journey of making videos, like yourself, is finding out what's important to people. See, I love all the technical aspects. You're talking to me, I'm talking about varieties and definitions, but what matters to most Aussies, what matters to most humans is the experience, is that beautiful experience of the berries getting eaten by the bears, and that when you walk around in the raspberries or when you walk around the pine forest, it's not just eating the pine mushroom, but it's the experience of walking in that cold morning, going through, the air is different, and then when you find one,
Spending time with family.
spending time with family and eating with family too. Those memories are really important. So in my videos and how I try to engage the great people out in the world to eat more fruit and veg is to kind of use a fishing hook and draw them in using their experience.
So you play on the emotion.
Correct. Like an avocado, the first viral video I made was about avocados. And the thing that we hate about avocados is that sometimes they're bruised inside. So I wanted to play on that bruised avocado and show people that you don't need to have a bruised avocado experience. I purchased nearly $30 million worth of avocados when I worked for the supermarkets. And I can tell you with just my eyes if it's going to be bruised or not. And so when I can help people have better experiences like that, that really catches their imagination. And then when they have the good experience after, they'll remember it.
Yeah, and also you're equipping them with
Yes.
useful skills.
Yes, that they
and
can't
to save
unlearn.
money.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know, saving money is really important, but I think the most important thing for me, and the angle is not just about seasonality and freshness, but it's also about having the good experiences and deliciousness, because I think deliciousness will win in the end. And I think that gets forgotten. We always talk about seasonality, we always talk about freshness, but we don't talk about deliciousness. We just assume that being more fresh is being more sweet, but that isn't always the case, because you pick the mango that's not ripe off the tree, it's never going to be fully ripe and delicious, but it might not be brown and black or bruised, but it won't be delicious. So that's why we need the knowledge so we can have the best berry experiences. This is one of the famous mushroom providors in Melbourne. So it's Damien Pike. Unfortunately, he's injured at the moment, but often there's pine mushrooms here, there'll be slippery jacks. Right now there's truffles, but there's also an array of exotic mushrooms. So mushrooms are becoming very big. And your favorite mushroom is the pine mushroom?
That's right. Yes.
And are there other mushrooms that you like as well, or predominantly the pine?
Well, I like all sorts of mushrooms. I also like the button mushrooms. I like the big mushrooms to bake them in the oven. But what's your favorite?
Well, that's a really good question. I like enoki mushrooms, like the really long strand ones. My kids do like button mushrooms, probably more the flats. So did you know that buttons, cups and flats are all the same species of mushroom? It's just the mushroom grown an extra day, it grows bigger. That's all it is.
Wow.
Yeah, so actually in my new TV series, I filmed a whole episode about mushrooms. The growing of commercial mushrooms like these ones, those ones up there, but also we went foraging for pine mushrooms, your favorite.
Which area did you go?
We did go to the Macedon Ranges around Wood End. There are some pine plantations around there, but there are so many great forests in Melbourne that you can forage. And across Australia too, not just in Melbourne, in New South Wales and Queensland.
Tell me a bit about your TV show.
So it's called Fruit Nerds Field to Feast. And I named it that because we start in the field, whether that's a farm or whether it's an orchard, and then we take the journey back to where we would eat it at home.
Australia really is the lucky country when it comes to fresh produce.
That's really good.
I'm Tan the Fruit Nerd, a second generation fruiter, and I love all things fruit and veg.
Artichokes look wonderful. Fresh mushrooms, people.
Join me each episode as I deep dive into a locally grown fruit or vegetable and follow its journey from the farm to your table.
I'm the Fruit Nerd, and welcome to Field to Feast. So with a lot of TV shows, they talk about the paddock to plate, but they don't spend a lot of time talking to the farmers and really appreciating what happens growing the actual fruit and vegetable. Behind the scenes, yeah. And also the humans behind it, whether it's the truck driver, the person that's managing the machinery, the grading, the picker. And that's really been my life story because my family sell fruit and veg for a living. I often travel to a farm. And so I see the whole journey, the whole supply chain. And there's so much that goes on to get this mushroom here or these green beans here. And I really wanted to showcase this story. And through my experiences, I wanted to teach people the story, but make it interesting, make it fun and exciting and useful. And so the story for me and the TV series is about show people the journey, but within that journey, teach people about fruit and veg and why it would be useful for them to actually know about it. So when they're here, they're picking the fruit and veg that's the most freshest, that they know has been graded well, that tastes delicious. And it's because of these people along the journey that have made that fruit and veg so delicious. And without their stories, we wouldn't have that knowledge.
Yeah, and people would learn to appreciate it so much more, how much effort it takes to see a fresh strawberry.
I totally agree with you, Lena. With my kids, I grow a small tomato plant at home, and we only maybe yield 10 or 20 tomatoes a year. but they see that it's not perfect. They see that there's a lot of scars on the skin. They see a lot of insects eating some, birds will eat some. And I really want to show them how hard it is to get one piece of tomato or one mushroom or one green bean on that shelf that looks so abundant here. When we showcase to the younger generation this story, they won't waste when they're eating food at the table. And that's really another part of my journey, preventing food waste. And another big thing is that most young people have never stepped foot on a farm before. So that's why this kind of entertainment education is even more important, because we have a lot of urbanization, a lot of kids living in the city, and they don't get the opportunity to see what it's like out in the farm.
Tell me about your name, the nickname,
Yeah.
Fruit Nerd. How did that come about?
Well, I was in Brazil for the World Cup, and we were going to watch a soccer match, but all I wanted to do was go to the local fruit market. And my friends were really, really annoyed at me because they were like, "Tan, why?" And I was like, "Oh, I just wanted to, look at what fruits were available." And I came back with a whole table full of fruits because they're all tropical fruits that I wanted to try. And they just all laughed and they called me the fruit nerd because I was more excited about fruit and vegetables than I was about why we were there.
Yes.
Yeah, which is completely odd. But they gave me that name, and so now
And
I
it
live
stuck,
it. Yeah,
yes.
it stuck. And you know what? I love it because when I was young, the word nerd was seen in a negative light. It's kind of like, oh, you're not very cool. But now nerds are really cool, right? Nerds aren't just cool in the terms of being IT savvy, using your mobile, but I think having that technical knowledge about fruit and veg, but making it exciting and cool, that's what I want it to be. I want people to be excited about fruit and veg, not just that it's a boring thing for, people that are health conscious, but it's actually exciting, it's fun, it's tasty, it's delicious, enriches your life, but also, you just have this wonderful experience and you can share it with family, and then the memory stays with you forever.
Tell me about cultural traditions that you follow at home.
Yeah, so my parents are Vietnamese and my grandparents are Chinese. So we eat a lot of Asian veg, but we also are fruit wholesalers. So a lot of the fruit and veg around Melbourne and around Australia comes from my family. So we speak to a lot of farmers, we ask them to plant different types of vegetables so that the community, when you either in Chinatown at a restaurant or on an airline or just in an Asian community buying, maybe bok choy, those kinds of varieties have come from my family. So Asian veg is very important in my life. I've been on a few cooking shows, cooking Vietnamese food, but I'm going to talk about bok choy. Now, a lot of people, they go to the supermarket, they grab a bok choy and they don't know what to look for. And what I would always suggest is that bok choy originated in Shanghai, near the airport. And the bok choy there tastes different from the ones that we grow here in Australia. Now, what you want to look for is one that is much smaller. You see, this one is half the size than that one. So this is going to be much more tender and it's not going to be stringy. Sometimes when you eat veg,
yes.
So this one's going to be a little bit more stringy. You can even see that there's some string fibers coming out. But if you find ones that are smaller, and sometimes when they are smaller, they'll actually give you 4 instead of 3 or 2. Okay. So if you find ones that are smaller, they're going to be much more tender. Now this is something that a lot of people don't know about all of these greens here. You can eat them raw.
Okay,
So-
I've never tried it. I always ate it in the soup.
No, yeah, so I think with a lot of migrant families, we came from areas that were a little bit more not as hygienic, and so we needed to boil a lot of things to make sure that it was food safe. That's certainly my parents, but here everything is much more hygienic. So if you're growing things in the ground, you can cut it out of the ground and eat it straight fresh. It's beautiful. But the tip I have for you at home when you boil or stir fry some bok choy or pak choy or one of these greens is that if you're going to cook it for 3 or 4 minutes, just do it for 2. Because if you overcook veg, it loses a lot of its flavor. And because you can eat it raw, You don't need to cook it all the way through, and then it will have more texture. It will be a bit crunchy and a bit soft, but it will still have that sweetness to it, and you lose a lot of that sweetness if you do overcook. So that's my tip for bok choy.
That's good to
Yeah.
know. And how about in terms of nutrients? So if you overcook fruit and vegetables, what happens to the nutrients?
Yeah, so I'm not a nutritionist, but I do have a lot of friends who are nutritionists. And what I always say is that when you do cook foods, you do change the flavor and you do change some of the nutrients. But what I would say is that a lot of the things that we do cook, we can't access a lot of the nutrients unless we cook it. And so we absorb, for instance, carrot. If we cook a carrot, we can absorb all of its nutrients much faster. But if we don't cook a carrot, we'll absorb it slower, but we might not absorb all of its nutrients, but it's great fiber for our gut. So regardless of whether you overcook it or you don't cook it at all, I think eating any fruit and veg is the solution,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because it's just so easy these days to eat fast food or buy ready-made
It's
foods.
convenient, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not saying we should rule that out of our diet. I would just say that if we learn how to pick the tastiest fruit and veg, to cook them in an easier way, we might be able to eat it a few more times in our diet every week, because we're not perfect. I eat fast food as well, but I just try to eat more, raw and cooked fruits and vegetables at home, like our parents did, like we did when we were kids, and there wasn't so many offerings of fast food. But I think that excitement, if we're excited about it, if we know that it does taste good, if we can cook it really well and our kids want to eat it, even your 21-year-old, there's still a long way to go for, I think, even the younger generation to have more fruit and veg in their diet.
What language do you speak at home?
Yeah, that's a great question.
With your family
Ah.
and also with your parents?
Right, okay. So with my kids, I speak to them in English, but they are going to Chinese school, so they will learn Chinese. My wife does speak Chinese. She's Chinese Russian. At home with my parents, I speak to them in Vietnamese. They can speak English, but they're not very proficient because they were boat people, they were refugees, so they had it really tough. We tried to help them with their English needs, but they can still get by. I do speak Vietnamese and Chinese, and I learnt Japanese. I majored in languages. Yeah, I love languages.
You're a linguist.
Well, I think body language is very important, but I also think that, just learning a few words, because there was a Thai lady and I was asking her what nationality, what she was going to cook with those mushrooms. And, when you can say sawadee ka or a few words, it's different. People see you, they see your culture and they're more accepting and they feel like welcomed. And I really think that we are blessed to have English, but we shouldn't think that English is the be all and end all, and that's the only language out there. And I think that it's a good bridge to learn languages to cross cultures.
Tan, I'm so excited about your book and I
Thank you.
love the name. Don't buy fruit and veg without me.
Thank you so much.
What message are you trying to convey?
It's an interesting title, and it was named this way because it's a call to action, right? Because when you're buying fruit and veg, often we are very subconscious. We walk by, we pick up the bananas and we keep going. But if you're very conscious about what you're looking for, then that's what I can give you in this book. If you're with me, you're very actively looking at what's happening. Is it alive? Are we looking at the top? How big is it? Is it bent? What's the color like? Is it giving off a smell? Is it cold right now? And so I think all of these things and messages that I have about not just how to pick a fruit and veg, but also how to cut one. Like there are oranges over there, and I teach people a way to cut the orange so we don't eat a lot of that core that goes down the middle. That white
Yes,
thread.
I don't like that.
Yeah, well, we
Yes.
need to cut around it. So
Okay.
I talk about fruit anatomy. So, let's just say we go to the butcher. There is a great skill and art in cutting up meat so that we don't have a lot of the fat and the sinew, and we use it for different things. And the same is for fruit. But we just don't have that artistic skill anymore. And so I try to bring that in this book so that we not only picking the best oranges that are really juicy, that are really sweet, but then also when we cut it up, we're not eating all the bitter parts that are really fibrous. And so when you add all of these little small tips, it's 5% better, it's 10% better, then it's 20% better. And all of a sudden, every time you eat an orange, it's 20% better, 25% better. and then you start loving oranges again. And that's what I want to do, and that's what the book tries to do. And they're things that you can't unlearn. So once you learn them, they'll be with you forever.
For sure. Well, it looks very educational and fun.
Thank you. And I picked every piece of fruit in that book that was photographed myself.
Oh, wow. Well, Tom, thank you so much for being on Foreign Influence.
Thank you so much for, creating a safe space for me to showcase my story and my life.
I hope after watching our episode, this has ignited even more passion for you in fruit. And I hope you're going to go to your local grocery store and buy lots of fruit for your table at home.